Welcome everyone. This is number 8 of 8. So this is our last official Teaching and Training for Success module to share with you. And as a way of kind of celebrating the end, I asked a wonderful, wonderful favorite colleague, Carmel McKeough, to help present this. When we designed these modules last summer, Carmel and I worked together on this one. And Carmel is a wonderful communicator, and I want her to give a little bit of her background. Um, so I asked her if she would do this last one with me. So you guys have a treat because she is funny, she is knowledgeable, she's a great communicator, she's a big, big, big supporter of Project Search. She's worn many different hats. I'll let her tell you. So, Carmel, do you want to introduce yourself to the South Carolinians?
Yeah. Thank you so much. And what a build up. I can never live up to that now. I'm going to be really boring now. You're going to think, oh, she's a bit disappointing. So, so my name's Carmel, and and it's Carmel McKeough, and Susie said it perfectly. And nobody can say my name perfectly in England. They always get it wrong because it is in fact an Irish name. So, really thrilled to be with you because I, of course, now tell everybody that I've been to South Carolina. That's just, as far as I'm concerned, that's where in fact, I'm in Myrtle Beach. So they're all going to be incredibly jealous when I tell them about that because the weather here is terrible. We're supposed to be summer, but it's been raining, it's windy, it's cold, we've had hail, horrible. So they'll all be incredibly jealous when I tell them I've been to Myrtle Beach. So I got involved with Project Search about 8 or 9 years ago when we brought Project Search into the council where I was the deputy chief executive. So we had a Project Search program in the council offices, and it just blew me away how fantastic the program was, what it did for the young people, the differences it made in their lives. And really everybody in the local authority, we all sort of fell in love with it, and it's still obviously going strong today. So when I was in the council, I was obviously the business liaison, but I was also responsible for HR, for IT, for marketing, communications, all of the council's sort of delivery of its main objectives and all the strategic work. So it was really great to bring Project Search into that place, and as I say, it's still going. And then I had the really, really great pleasure of meeting Erin and Susie, and worked with Erin and Susie in the US, learned all about Project Search from the US teams, and then was working in England, and have worked with them ever since because it's just been an amazing opportunity. So yeah, so I'm all Project Search now through and through, and absolutely delighted with it. Even my son went and did a week's uh, work in a Project Search program because I was talking about it so much he thought he'd have to go down and experience it himself. So we all love it. We all love Project Search. And I am from the north of England, and I look after the north of England, Scotland and Ireland. So I've got more of a northern accent. So if you struggle with my northern accent, I'm really sorry about that. But if you do watch Game of Thrones, and you would have seen like the King of the North and all of that stuff, then you'd know. So it's like things like I would say things like you know nothing, Jon Snow. That's the quintessential northern English. So yeah, glad to be with you.
You've already caught our attention with your accent, so you're this is awesome. Well, I'm so happy.
Good, thank you. Oh, Susie, you're on mute.
You know how sometimes you just freeze? You're like, you know how to do it, and you're like, where's the mute button? All right, so we'll get started. Like I said, Carmel helped develop this wonderful module, and in our mind, it's funny, I was having a meeting this morning with some folks about our financial literacy new curriculum, and I kept saying, they said, "Do you want to do training?" I'm like, "Yes." "Do you want documents?" "Yes." I'm like, Project Search is very relational. We need all of that stuff for our staff. We need videos. We need this. We need that. We're used to having lots of support and communication, and so I think that it's really fun actually to end with this one on communication, because when I think about you guys ending your school years, I know that there was a graduation this morning for one of the South Carolina programs. Sometimes I feel like in the summer, like we go radio silent, like nobody talks to each other. And then we start up again in, August. So I think this is a good one to think about kind of what should happen over the summer and how much communication should we have, and what kind of communication do we have otherwise. So I'll go back to the PowerPoint. And Carmel's going to kick us off with the first,
Yeah.
I don't know, 13 slides, I think.
Yeah. And I've got my new thing on. What do you think of this? Hey, this old headset thing. I look like Brittany, what's she called? Or one of these young Madonna, somebody like. What do you think?
Like Britney Spears?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You look
Or a
like
Madonna. Don't all answer at once. A slightly older version, I know, but
Oh no, I just X'd out of the PowerPoint. See, why am I nervous today? All right, just a second. Totally X'd out of it.
It's always a worry when your emails come up, isn't it? Because you just don't know what might be there.
Or they can see all the ones you haven't answered. That's my
Yeah, I think, gosh, look at that, 3,000 emails that she's not dealt with.
All right. It's up.
Here we go.
Can you see it?
Yep.
All right. There we go.
Oh, here we go. Thank you, Susie. So, yeah, this session is about communication, about collaboration, and about the steering committee. And you all know how important that is and how important communication is. So that's why you're here, and we'll move on. So in this session, we're going to think a lot about how Project Search is that team of teams, and how those teams function and how those teams work together is really important. Also, that relationships are never static, are they? They're a balance of responsibilities. So we're trying to always make sure that one partner doesn't become dominant or one partner become very passive and not involved in the work. And a successful partnership, as we know, is built on respect and honesty, and nurturing relationships on an ongoing basis is going to strengthen that partnership. So Project Search team members must be committed to that common goal of competitive, integrated employment for each intern, and really hold that strong and in their hearts. Thank you. Now, this, I'm sure, when we did this slide, I thought, well, this probably doesn't happen in America, but, this kind of thing does happen in the UK. Sometimes you get that person that does 98% of the work in a team. And I wonder how many of you are that person. And then there's the people who just show up at the end and take all the credit. I'm sure that doesn't happen in the US. And then there's the person who thinks outside the box and comes up with different ideas. And then people who say they're going to help and do things and they don't. So most of us experience this when we've worked in any sort of project groups. There's all kinds of things going off and all kinds of behaviours that happen. So we're trying to find a way really to make sure that people work together and that they really do collaborate. Thanks, Suze.
I'd love to know which of you think you're one of these people.
Yes.
Does anybody want to take a guess? Hannah?
I'm like the 98%er, I think.
I think there's a lot of people in Project Search who would fit into that category.
Rhonda,
Yeah.
I'm going to pick on Rhonda. What do you think?
Probably right now, I would say 98%.
That's what I would have said about
Say
you
98%.
for
Yeah.
sure.
And right now I'm at 120.
I was going to say 198% for Rhonda,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
We
I wonder
have
if anybody,
graduation Tuesday. It's crazy this week.
and I wonder if you know anybody who might be the one that says that takes all the credit at the end. Do you know anyone like that? We won't say, but yeah, I've got a few in mind when I think about that.
Erin and
Okay.
I always laugh because she's the person who thinks outside the box and she comes up with these crazy ideas. And then I do the 98%. And then, well, we both get the credit, but it's funny. She asked me a question the other day about, do you think we could do thus and so? And I said, oh my gosh, that sounds like the coolest idea ever. And then I start like, we could do this. And she goes, I didn't ask you to start working on it yet. I just asked you if you liked the idea. I'm like, okay, yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So I was thinking about whether we could think about partnerships that you've been a part of that have really worked well, and what you think about those partnerships, and to who was in it, what is it about them that made them work well, and what if you were giving somebody some tips about partnership working, what would you say from your experience you've come to realize? So anybody got some really great ideas about a partnership, and tell us a little bit about who's in it? And if you don't say anything, because I don't know anybody, I'll have to get Susie to pick on people. So, what do you think?
Right now, I'm just thinking of many partnerships that we've had, and it's really not, I guess it's what makes them work is when everyone sort of understands their role in the partnership. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people join partnerships and just sort of go, I'm here, what do you need me to do? And you're just hoping that people will take control of what their part is. And sometimes that gets cloudy.
Yeah, I think that comes up quite a lot, doesn't it, when people are not clear, and you see people who join a partnership and then they disappear because they feel, I don't really know what's in it for me, or I don't feel I'm needed. And yeah, that's a really good point. Any other thoughts on things that really make a partnership work well?
I think we all have different strengths, and we definitely bring those to the partnership when we work together, and with our different interests or what we do well, is just the students benefit from that.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. And that sort of speaks as well to that idea of valuing difference, doesn't it? That you do play to the strengths of individuals, and you value what each different partner has got to offer. And that you can really see that in some partnerships, can't you, where people are doing that and allocating work appropriately and all of that sort of thing, because they know the right people to do the right job. Yeah, really good idea. Any others?
Well, I did some youth groups in our church, and we planned a big pilgrimage to Germany. It was this huge undertaking, and there were 4 adults, and there were probably 20 youth. And somebody took over like the logistics, the travel logistics, like where we were going to stay and all of that. And I helped do the airline because I fly a lot. And then one of us was really kind of looking at, the day-to-day itinerary and where we were going to stop and how long we were going to be there, and what we're going to visit, and what spiritual things were we going to work in, and what fun things were we going to work in, because you've got youth and they don't want to spiritual things all the time. And it was really nice because it just sort of fell into our strengths. And it worked really, really well. And even 2 of us were kind of the lovey-dovey adults, and then 2 of us were more the hard-nosed adults. So that worked out well. So, we could kind of play good cop, bad cop sometimes if kids
Don't cross my door. Am I too loud?
What?
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, it worked out really well.
And it sounds like a really good division of labor as well. It sounds like everybody was taking a turn at things to do, which is also really helpful, isn't it, in a partnership, that everybody takes their turn and takes some of the load. So that sounds really good. Shall we move on? So when we're looking at developing a successful partnership, these are some of the ideas around what really makes for good working as a partnership. So the first one is about people having a shared, having a personal stake in the partnership arrangement. So they feel as though they have got a reason for being there. They feel as though they're adding value. It feels on a personal level, you feel committed to being involved in that partnership. And the second bullet point there about working towards a common aim is also really important, a really important element of partnership working. And I think it's one of the strengths in a project search program that we are able to bring together all these partners with this clear common aim. And sometimes that can be hard in other partnerships. You're not quite sure what the aim is and why you're together. But really, I feel that's a great strength in project search. Partners have a similar ethos or system of belief. And again, I think this is where project search is strong, because the partnership do come together, and they are sort of similar types of organizations with similar systems and working in similar ways. So that's really useful and really helpful, because I think we've all probably been in partnerships where you get sort of a dominant partner who you feel is really, calling the shots all the time, and how that really doesn't work so well, especially if you've got like smaller organizations who feel they can't stand up to that. This one I always think is a tricky one, about people working together over a reasonable period of time. And we do have lots of project search programs been going for a very long time, but we know that one of the things that unsettles things a little bit is when there's a change, so when somebody moves on and somebody leaves, and there's that vacuum and things can happen. In fact, I remember Erin telling me that she likens it to like a cot mobile. And I always thought, it's always stuck with me, that idea that you have a cot mobile and it's got all the little parts and it kind of moves along and moves around and wobbles a bit here and there, but it stays relatively well. But if one piece of that mobile drops off, then everything does become a little bit disjointed, doesn't it? A little bit wobbly. But in project search, we can get that piece back on, and we can get that, go back to that more stable but movable little team. And I always think that's really a nice analogy of that issue about working together over a period of time and staying together. There's got to be an agreement that the partnership is necessary. If you've got people who think they can do it themselves, or they don't need to be part of this partnership, or I'll listen in, and as soon as I've got what I want, I'm off, then it doesn't really bode well for good partnership working. There's this understanding, which you did talk about, of the value of what each partner contributes, and that's really important. And respect and trust between different partners, and that everybody acknowledges each other in anything that they do. So, if you are having a graduation, all of the partners get mentioned and everybody gets recognised for what they do. And again, that comes.
Just to add on, I think hopefully we've made a couple of these easier for you. So for instance, the second bullet about working towards a common aim, hopefully we all know we have one big goal in project search. That's it, one. And hopefully you all know what it is. But that employment goal is like, we put it on everything. Hopefully everybody knows that, and that makes it easier when we're all working toward the same thing.
I agree with you, Susie. I think that's a really, that is such an anchor, isn't it, for everybody to kind of feel that. Sometimes when I've been in partnerships where we've been having a little bit of an issue about, I think we should do it this way, I think we should do it that way, and you can always bring it back by saying, okay, let's look at this from the point of view of the intern. What's going to give the most value? What's going to be most valuable for them? And you're right, it's a super way to galvanize everybody. And I find, I don't know about you guys, but I find the host business is just as bothered about that goal as any other partner, which always I think is inspiring.
I agree. It's funny. I can almost address any challenge with that common goal. So I got an email just the other day from a teacher, not in South Carolina, but in another state. And she said, I have a student that's been gone a third of the year, been absent. What should I do? I know, Donna, I can see your face. I'm like, holy moly. I'm like, why didn't you email me sooner? And I said, no employer would ever keep you if you were gone a third of the time. There's your answer. Like, just always, to me, if you can point to that goal of employment, you can probably answer 80% of your challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, you want me to go ahead? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so we're ready to move on. So behaviors. So what do you, when you're in a team, a partnership team that works really well, what would you see them doing? What kind of behaviors would you see? These are some of the ideas, again, that people believe would be appropriate in a good partnership. So they share in creativity, risk, responsibility, and resources. So there's a really strong sense that they're in it together, and if we've got to take a risk, we're all taking the risk, and they talk about that, and they're creative and have ideas, and I think that's really important. The team feed off each other's energy and enthusiasm, and that, again, I always feel in Project Search, that is so palpable. There is a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and I think a lot of that just comes from Erin and Susie. There's a lot of energy around, and it just makes partnership working so much better.
I think it comes from the interns. The interns are most of them are so excited that it makes you excited, and it makes you want to work for them.
Oh, yeah.
They get what they need.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true. And there are some fantastic interns on. I think it's really great to just spend a little bit of time with the interns. It does feed your energy, absolutely. And then obviously you can get more funding and get more support if you are acting as a team, because you can look out for each other's organizations and different ways in which you can arrange funding. So sometimes host businesses get funding for things, and sometimes the educator will, and there's just so many different opportunities because you're acting together and you're thinking about it together. The team highlights different issues and problems, and they work together on solutions. So it would feel, when you're in a good partnership, it feels like you can talk about your problem. You can talk about an issue, and you can raise an issue, because it feels like a safe space, and that nobody's going to be hypercritical, and everybody's going to be looking at how they can help you. And that's a sign of a lot of trust, isn't it? You've got to feel that there's a lot of trust in an organization to feel like that.
Carmel, can I interrupt you for just a second?
Sure.
Just because I'm hoping she's still sitting right there, but Cheryl Johnson, that's in this meeting, she is at one of our sites in Greenville that I just visited. And I was hoping she might share, because I really feel like it's collaboration and partnership that is what got them what they're getting over there. So Cheryl, do you mind just telling the group what's happening on your site, like in the building that you're in, because of the partnerships that you have? Oh, you're muted.
I always try not to do that. But anyway, thanks, Diane. Yes, we're so fortunate here in Greenville, South Carolina. Truly, first of all, St. Francis Hospital approached the school district about bringing Project Search. So first off, our site didn't have to find a business partner. And then we have a strong partnership with vocational rehabilitation. And because we've had so much success with our program, and we try to get a lot of word out in the community, we have been blessed with a benefactor where instead of having a training room, which was gorgeous and large in and of itself, we're going to have a whole floor of a building, so that we can then, like the bed and exam table, the linen carton, those things, they'll all be in their own separate room. So, and it has to do with having strong partnerships. And then being at a faith-based hospital helps a lot.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that is amazing, isn't it?
Carmen,
Well, I just had to share that just because I went to go visit for the first time the other day, and they're dedicating this entire floor for them to be like a training center. And I could tell when I met with the team that day that it was the collaboration in that team and the partnerships and everything like that that is why they are where they are right now.
Isn't
this
that
week
fantastic?
we have Able South Carolina that comes in and provides support, as well as Rhonda Mumford as our state transition coordinator. So it's developing those relationships and maintaining those relationships that truly makes a difference.
It really does. I mean, that is such a fantastic story. That's fantastic. It is amazing that people can do that. And it's just, as you said, when everybody is committed to the goal and everybody's putting things, it just makes all the difference in the world. That's fantastic. So again, on to the issues around productivity and efficiency. If you are a really strong partnership, you can be far more productive, can't you? You can be much more efficient in what you're doing because the right people are doing the right things, and it just makes for such better outcomes for people. And so the actual service delivery, the things that you do are just often better. And then usually in a good team, you would see a very supportive behaviours and also diversity in the team themselves, and this idea of playing to strengths. You'd see that in the partnership arrangement. Thanks, Susie. That is an amazing story. That's fantastic. So we're going to watch a short video now, and it's going to feature some ideas about collaboration, and then we're going to talk some more about what you saw and what you learned from that.
And give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
Times when group work failed, people missed deadlines, failed to communicate, and didn't learn from mistakes. But chances are you've also been part of a team when you accomplished something epic together that you could have never done on your own. So what makes this creative collaboration work effectively? Well, here are 7 ideas. Number 1, ownership. Members need to be empowered from the start. Here they can solve problems, generate ideas, and design systems that lead to success. Number 2, dependability. Creative collaboration requires members to hit their deadlines and develop creative endurance. Number 3, trust. When members trust one another, they work interdependently. Here they genuinely listen to one another and assume the best in each other. Over time, they become transparent and even vulnerable. Number 4, structure. The structure should be loose and flexible, but you need to have structure in creative collaboration. It needs to exist. This is why I love design thinking. It's a flexible framework for getting the most out of the entire creative process. Number 5, a shared vision. I'm not referring here to vision statements that you put on a wall or slap on a website. I'm thinking more in terms of a sense of direction. It's a shared desire, a goal that you're aiming for, and a picture of what you will produce. Number 6, fun. The best collaborative groups I've been a part of are the ones where you want to be together. They laugh, they play together, and this can actually boost both convergent and divergent thinking. Number 7, candor. This is one of the big takeaways from Creativity Inc., a book by one of the co-founders of Pixar. It's the idea that groups need to be honest about what's working and what's failing. And this honesty allows you to adjust and iterate and ultimately create something awesome.
I think we've got a small enough group that it would be wonderful to have each of you pick one of these and talk a little about it. What do you think, Carmel? Would that be okay?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Yeah. So, yeah, we're talking about what parts of the video resonated with you and what would be helpful for you to increase your collaboration and in your project search team. So that's a great idea, Susie. So the idea of ownership. Anybody want to share some ideas about ownership and what that's meant to you?
Cheryl, I'm going to pick on you because I think you take a great deal of ownership in your project search program. And I know you said that whole thing was due to the partnership, but I bet, I'm willing to bet that a lot of it was due to your ownership and commitment.
Is it because I'm retired and came back to work, Susie? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. You're impressive.
Well, thank you. It's because of these students, these young adults. They're just joy. So that's what gets me up and going in the morning. I keep wondering, how much longer do I need to be doing this? And am I crazy? But there's such good, I mean, our team is strong. We gel. We work, it's not like there aren't bumps in the road, but we are able to, because of good communication, we address things amongst the staff if there's an issue one-on-one, and we address it with the students if there's an issue. So having that full, just believing strongly in the program and realizing what can happen with these young adults when they start with us in August and how they end by the end of the year, the growth kind of just pulls you into everything about the program. So it's like family. You become part of it.
Yeah, I think that's so right. And it's the first organization that I've ever worked with where I really do feel it is a family. People talk about being part of a family, don't they? And they say, oh no, our business is like being a family, but I don't know, Project Search to me, it absolutely is. For the reasons that you've said, I think that's really great, Cheryl. Really, it is that.
It's so interesting that you both brought up family, and I don't mean to be maudlin, but I know Carmel's kids. They're young men, and if I saw them on the street, I would know who they are. We would chat. And if I would go to her house, we would all go out to lunch together. I know her husband. I know what he does. He said hi to me on our last little work session. So it's not only are we a family, but we care about each other's families, which are central to who we are, right? Our families are always, kind of top notch. And so when you have people that not only care about you, but care about like the rest of your life, it helps you to give that 110%, or as somebody said about Cheryl, 198%.
Yeah. Yes, I did some work on leadership once, and one of the things that they were talking about, engaging leadership and what's the most important thing that people value from leaders, and one of them was genuine care and genuine interest in you as a person. And I think that that's what we have got spades of in Project Search. And the same thing I think goes for you and the interns, that there is you genuinely care about them and you genuinely want them to do good. And I think that shows, it really shows. What about dependability then? If you said you're going to do something, you do something. Anybody want to share any stories about that? It's difficult for me I can't see everybody and I don't know everybody. So I end up relying on Susie to pick people out.
Well, here, it's just these kids are becoming very dependent and independent of their mentors, but the mentors, they're dependent on these kids to show up when they're supposed to, doing what they're supposed to. And it's interesting to see the transition between, the first couple of weeks of an internship versus week 10, when we're getting calls from the mentors. Hey, it's such and such, we need them early today. Can you bring them on up? And absolutely. So that is when it really sort of hits home that these mentors are depending on our kids.
Yeah. That's a really good point, and it really does teach you about the importance of dependability, doesn't it? Because I think one of the things that can happen in a team is, so when I worked at the council, I could tell you if I sent out an instruction to the managers, say to give me some information or do something, or I could have told you right there and then the ones that would respond and the ones that wouldn't. I just knew the ones who would and wouldn't. And you get a reputation, don't you, for either being a dependable person who does what they say they're going to do, or somebody who isn't like that. And in a team situation, people who are not dependable are not really valued after a while, and people will know that that's what they do. And yet somebody who is dependable, and you say, if you give something to somebody and you know they're going to do it, it is such a relief, isn't it? It's just like, oh, I've given it to Melinda. I know it's going to happen. And the interns teach us that because they do it all the time. They are the ones they are super dependable. And they'll tell you as well, won't they, if they can't do something, which is sometimes a problem for people. They'll say they do something and then they don't. Sorry, my dog started to bark. Trust. How about trust? How important is trust, and any examples of how that's worked for you?
Well, speaking as someone who's new to the program, I think that this one is going to be a huge part of our program here in Spartanburg, because 90% of our team is new. And so we have been working over the last probably 2 months or so to meet as often as we can, talk as much as we can. And just in this 2-month time frame, I can already tell that everyone on our team is getting more comfortable with each other. So that's something that we're really going to push this summer. And of course, hopefully increase during the school year.
That's a great point. When people are new, because trust takes a little bit of time to develop, doesn't it? It takes a little bit of time to get, and it's very related often to dependability, because you tend to trust people who are dependable. And it'd be interesting to see how you feel that goes, Hannah, won't it, over the next few months, and how, maybe a year from now, you might have really high trust in that group. So,
Hannah, I think what's so important, what you just said, is your team was the first program in South Carolina. And I have to tell you that the first couple of times I saw you, I'm like, where's Sam? And then I'm like, oh, Hannah's Sam. Hannah's in for Sam. It's like, and so you have that added, I don't want to say responsibility, but kind of like responsibility of, oh, we were the first program. There was lots of eyes on us. Like, I have to be good. And then Sam was kind of like this little icon, and it's like, oh, so we love you and you're going to do great. But you're right. It might take a little bit of time to just have your new team gel. But in a way, it's kind of nice that you're all kind of starting out together.
Yeah, it is good. So this idea about structure and flexibility. So the need for structure and some organization, but also flexibility to be able to respond to things. And how does that play out for you in a project search program? Does that resonate? Something that you need?
I just want to chime in quick, because I've been visiting a lot of, I'm the statewide coordinator, so I've been visiting a lot of the sites. And the one thing that I've been giving a lot of sites credit for is the flexibility of the staff and everybody involved, but also of the interns, because once COVID hit, it was just like a roller coaster of changes and ups and downs. And we all know that, individuals, especially like with autism or different disabilities, don't do well. I don't do well with change all of the time. And I was very impressed with the flexibility and the structure, considering everything that was thrown our way this past year.
Yeah, that's a really great point, isn't it? Because you couldn't think of anything that's caused us to have to respond more flexibly than COVID. It's really turned everything around. But also, I love the structure of the critical success factors that we have, which really help to kind of, it kind of gives you a sense of direction and a goal and things that you ought to be aiming for. I think you call it model fidelity, don't you? we call it critical. So those things are really helpful. I think that you've got that to guide you, but also you're able to flexibly respond when needed. Because I love the fact, I think Erin and Susie talk about this, about the enemy of good is perfect. And we can never be perfect, and nothing is ever perfect, but we can always strive to follow model fidelity and look at what we can do, but also respond to the circumstances that we're in. It's great. Shared vision, does that feel like, I think we've talked already about how strong that is in Project Search, that goal of employment. I don't know anything. I've never worked anywhere where the goal wasn't so clear. It's so clear, isn't it? That's what we're all about. And I love the idea about fun. What do you think about fun? Do you think fun is an important part of life, work? Yeah. And again, I think we learn a lot from the interns as well about fun, don't we? They help us to understand that. And candor and honesty. How does that play out?
You guys handle it
That's
when there's
critical.
yeah, it is critical, but how do you handle it when you have to tell someone something that's difficult?
You
For
leave.
us, I'm just like with one of the mentors, who get excited about this. They seem to think that all the kids can do the same things. And sometimes when they get excited about a second intern coming and, oh, we're going to get them to do this, 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 this. And we're saying, hey, that's not, this person may not be able to do, but two of the three things that the other intern was able to. So for us, it's, we'll try our best, but you're just going to have to understand that they're all different. So, and they usually take that pretty well.
Yeah. And I do love this idea of, all of us are different, aren't we? Whether we've got a learning disability or intellectual disability or not, we're all different. And there is this funny thing that sometimes happens with the interns, isn't it, where they get this view that they're all going to be the same. And it's interesting to have those conversations. And difficult conversations are difficult to have. I mean, I always feel that in my line of work, because my background is human resources and personnel matters, and I've been involved in quite a lot of difficult conversations. And I always think that the important thing is being responsible in the way that you tell it, because there's no need to be mean, is there? There's no need to be nasty. There's no need to shout. There's no need to. You can give some difficult messages in a very warm way. And I often find that people actually know when things aren't right. They actually know. So if you have to have a difficult conversation, maybe about somebody's performance at work or something, usually if you say to them, how do you feel you're doing? They will tell you the difficulties that they're having, and it makes the conversation a lot easier then, because you can build on that. It's very rare that people are so totally unaware of their of the ways in which they fall down. In fact, often I used to find people are more critical of themselves than you would have been. So it's often a good way to have those honest conversations, is just ask people what they think, and they'll often share.
What a great
Lovely.
idea.
Yeah.
Great idea. I just wanted to, every time I watch this little video, it's only 2 minutes. It has so much packed into it. I'm so glad Carmel found it. But one of the things they said after dependability, they talked about relating it to creative endurance. And that word endurance, at least I don't use it very often, but it's a little different than dependability, but kind of, can you go that long haul? Can you get through the year? Can you, for our interns, can you get through all 3 internships well? I don't know. I really like that word. And I do think it's an important trait to have that endurance, and endurance builds great habits. And it's just, it's a wonderful word. And it was linked to dependability.
It is, and also I think that links as well to things like resilience building in yourself. Things like breathing techniques and allowing yourself time and calming down and not reacting immediately to something, because so many things become you can sort them out, can't you, when you allow yourself a little bit of space and a little bit of time. And I think that so helps with endurance and resilience, when you can do that, when you can just think, oh, it's all going terribly wrong, I'm all crazy busy, but actually I'm going to stop for a minute, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to clear my head, and then come back to it. Yeah, good point, Suze.
Carmel, I just want to tell the group a quick story, like that. I was on a Zoom call, a steering committee meeting this morning at one of the sites, and this one site in particular, it's a good site. It's just that the host business at this point is not really super involved. And I was literally right on the verge, because there was nobody from the host site that was in the steering committee, and I was right on the verge of saying, okay, we already have it set up for next year, but maybe we could look into a new site after that, since we don't have that. And right as I'm about to say it, the general manager had logged in and everything. And I had to turn around my way of thinking. And I reached in the meeting, I just was like, thank you again for, hosting our interns. I know that this year has been really tough. If you ever need anything. So I kind of made it that he could come to me, and I would really like to meet with him just to talk about he may not know a lot about Project Search, because he got thrown into his role pretty quick and right in the middle of COVID. So I think also when it comes to collaboration, we all have to kind of look through different lenses every once in a while. And I have had that happen to me many times since I started this role, of being I got to look at this from a different perspective. And my annoyance with him, I don't know what he's got going on every single day. You know what I mean? So I wanted to make sure I didn't come off to him like I was annoyed, and say, I am here for your support. What do you need?
Yeah, I think that is a really good example, and that happens a lot in Project Search, doesn't it? Where there's, for whatever reason, one of the partners just may not be pulling their weight or doing what you think they should be doing at that particular time, and it's very easy to respond angrily to that. And I was listening once to a speaker who he was saying how he'd been doing a load of work with Manchester United Football Club. You may have heard of them, a soccer club. And he'd done a load of work with them, and he spent ages and hours and been there and done all this work preparing to run some training for them. And he spent days and days and days doing it. And then the day before he was due to deliver the training, the guy wrote to him and said, I'm sorry, but we can't do it. And he said he'd written this email, fuming email, about how much time he'd logged in, and really annoyed about them letting him down at the last minute, and a furious email. And then he suddenly thought, no. And he went for a walk, and he came back, and he wrote a lovely email saying, I'm very disappointed. Naturally, I understand why, but if ever, you want me to come and work with you again, I'd be delighted to do it. And it's been a pleasure to know you. And about 3 weeks later, they phoned him and said, can you come and do the work? And he just said he knew that would not have happened had he sent that really cross email that he'd intended to send. And it's always stuck with me, that. So you're right, Diane. It's don't respond, because things might get different. Hannah, you were going to come in. I could see you.
I'm in a shared space and somebody walked in.
Okay. Right. Shall we move on then? Suze?
Yes.
Are we okay? So now we're going to have a little look at communication and some of the skills that are around communication, and how we can use those skills. And this is in the conference, I'm going to do a whole session on these skills, because I think you could spend hours and hours. Well, I once went on a communication course. It was on for 3 days, just looking at communication skills, and it was fabulous. Anyway, one of the things is about listening, and that I have learned a lot about listening lately. So I was talking to some people about sales. We were doing some training on sales and how to sell and so on. This really great woman that we've been working with has been helping us. And I was telling her that I'd spoken to another guy who we didn't end up going with for the training, but he said something. I was talking about going and speaking to host businesses and going and speaking to educators and different people about Project Search. And I was telling him what we do. And he said, you show up and throw up. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is exactly what we do. We show up with our slides and our presentation and we just, woof, there you go. Here it all is. And so much can be learned from letting them speak first. It will completely change what you do. So a really great example for this. I would have normally done my show up, throw up thing, but I didn't. We have this idea that maybe what we should ask, especially with education partners, is, so what's your ambition for young people who are leaving your school or college? What's your ambition for them? Well, of course, then they start saying things like, well, obviously we want them to go on to a job, and obviously we want the best for them, and we want this and we want that. And so you learn all about their value set and what they're trying to achieve. So when you then do your show up and throw up, you can amend it or adjust it, can't you? So that you're meeting their requirements. And oh my gosh, I've forgotten about the power of just listening and letting them tell you what they want. Diane is nodding her head there. Have you had similar experiences?
Yes, many, many times I have. Like sometimes I'd like to think I listen, but I've noticed that sometimes I'm like, okay, you don't know everything, so stop and listen to what other people are telling you.
Yeah. And partly I think it's because of our passion as well for Project Search. When you feel really passionate about something, you're inclined to give it everything, aren't you? Go for it and talk about it. And sometimes that can overwhelm people. I've seen people sometimes be a bit like, oh. So yeah, listening is absolutely key. And there's some really great tools around listening that I love, like the idea of feeding back, and so listen and feed back to them and reflect what they say, but you've got to listen really hard, because a lot of us, when we think we're listening, we're just waiting to speak. So inviting candor and encouraging questions and interaction. Again, inviting people to share things with you. And I suppose the example that I gave before about if somebody's not performing particularly well and you invite them to tell you about how they feel they're doing, they often will tell you. And often you can deal with some of the issues that are there. And that, asking open questions and encouraging people to share with you. I don't know if you've ever experienced where you've probably got a friend who's like a really good listener, and it's just lovely, isn't it? Because you feel like they're giving you all their attention and they're asking you really nice questions, and I've got a great friend and she always helps me. She did this thing once about, I was saying like, I'm going on holiday and I've got this to do and I've got that to do and I've got to finish that and I've got to do this and I've got to finish that and I've got that to do and I've got 50 emails and I've not done this and I've not done that. And she was looking at me and she said, how long are you going on holiday for? And I said, 4 days. And she said, I thought you were going on a year's sabbatical. And it just sort of made me, I had this immediate, oh my God, I am overdoing it now. But she didn't say anything except listen and then just reflect back to me how horrendous I'd made everything sound. So it's, you can be that person. It's lovely, isn't it? To just listen and let people talk to you and ask them lots of questions. Being aware of people's concerns and understanding them. I mentioned before about leadership programs that really do. It's one of the things that people like best. If they feel somebody genuinely cares about them, the whole relationship is completely different. Language, I think, is a really interesting thing for us in Project Search, because I'm stumbling over my learning disabilities versus intellectual disabilities because we have different terminology. But I know over here, I don't know whether you find the same, but in business, a lot of the business folks are nervous about language. they're not sure what they should call people, and they're not sure what's allowed and what can I say. And so there is something about helping people to navigate the language without making them feel like they're foolish or they've done something wrong. Do you have that? Do you have that sort of thing where people are nervous, or is that just a British thing?
No, that definitely happens here too, for
Does
sure.
it? Yeah, there's like words you can, we call it political correctness. Do you have that?
Same here. And it's,
Yeah.
that's another huge thing for me too, Carmel. It's been really interesting because I do sometimes get nervous. I'm like, there is so much change in verbiage all the time and the language, and I don't ever want to offend anybody, but you know what I mean? Like that is a huge thing for sure.
Yeah, it is. And correcting people as well, because I've heard people correct people and it's been really horrible. You can tell it's made them feel small. You know, I remember somebody once used the terminology wheelchair bound, and this woman said, don't say that, it's wheelchair user. And the person, I could see they almost died on the spot. You know, they felt so embarrassed. And I'm sure they didn't mean anything by it, but they were certainly made to feel horrible. Sharing ideas and sharing information to help people understand and correct any misunderstandings, it kind of does link a lot with the language stuff, doesn't it? So if you can help people and give them information to help them use the right language, that's really helpful. It avoids that problem. So just sharing that is really, really good.
Well, Carmel, I'm sorry. I've been so chatty, but I just wanted to tell you about one other thing that I did that I wanted to make sure, because my role is to help support all of these people. And then they're the ones that, I mean, I see the interns and meet them, but they're the ones that are really working with the interns. So I sent out an email the other day because I work for Transition Alliance of South Carolina, technically, and we're going to be doing a summer camp. And I had asked, I was like, what are the primary areas that you guys would like to, you know, see training, or what do we want to learn about and whatever. And at the end of the email, I said, another thing that I want to know is, how do you learn best? Because I want to kind of try to design these. We tend to forget those things ourselves because we're thinking about how the interns learn best. I learn from experience, but there are some people that can learn from reading. There are some people that can learn better from PowerPoints. So I was like, I need to ask them, like, what are some, and I got a wide variety of answers of how people learn best. You know what I mean? So that was me trying to like hear more and listen to what they need more versus how I think that they, you know what I mean, should do things. Yeah.
That's a really good point. And there are definitely ways of getting information about how people want to be communicated with. So that is a really cool example. And then the idea about responding, so that you respond with empathy to what people tell you. And, you know, it can be difficult sometimes to be empathetic. It can be difficult to sometimes understand where people are coming from. But it's really important to try and build and develop those skills of, you know, sometimes I think my face sometimes can tell a story, and, you know, I might respond in a way, and I really try to think about sometimes being aware of that and trying to kind of make sure that I manage that and that I don't do things or say things that, you know, maybe show a lot of shock, or that somebody's doing something and I think, oh my gosh, that's absolutely mad, and I look like I'm struggling with it. So there's the way you respond does make a big difference, doesn't it, to how people feel about dealing with you in the future. If they can see that you were clearly shocked by what I just told you, then they might not tell you things again. And for the interns in particular, you want them to feel that they can tell you stuff, and so many of you are super cool at that, I know.
But sometimes, Carmel, I think, at least for me, I misread people's faces and I make assumptions then that you're upset or you don't care or whatever. And I should just ask rather than just assuming you're upset. Maybe you're just excited, or maybe you're thinking about something else. And then I get it wrong. And then I hurt the other person in the process because I make that wrong assumption. I think it is important to respond with empathy, but it's also important to check out your perceptions.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And also it's good to tell people, because I do remember that somebody did once tell me that your face was telling a different story. And that was helpful to know because yeah, you know, it has made me a bit more conscious about that, being careful about what my face is doing. Yeah, good stuff.
All right, we'll go to the next one.
Yeah. So the next idea is about building on what people know. So it's always a good place to start from in terms of communications to help people build on their strengths, I suppose. So starting a conversation with somebody about, you know, I don't know, physics or something, when you know they don't know anything about it, is likely to make them uncomfortable. So finding that what they know, what they're comfortable to talk about, and using that as the start point for a discussion and for some communication is always a really great place to start. And particularly, I think when Hannah was talking about being a new team, that's really good as well, that you find out what people do and what their experience was, and you can build on that and say, oh, we were thinking about this, and I know that this particular person was strong on that. So really useful to get people to join in conversations and feel comfortable because you build on what they know. Sticking to the important points is sometimes important in communications, because I guess I know you will have experienced this, where you have an individual who maybe talks a lot about things and allows things to wander around. I know I've seen many people working with interns on this issue about you know, people who tend to go down a track and just keep going, and the points go by the wayside and get completely lost. So really helping people to stick to the point and having those skills about bringing people back, which is really, I mean, in terms of listening, one of the skills on reflecting is really good for that. So bringing people back to things. So, you know, the things like people say things like, I always, you know, I always do this wrong. I always make mistakes. I can never get things right. And just the simple act of saying to them something like, always will make them, well, not quite always. You never? Well, maybe not never. So there's a good way of kind of bringing people back and keeping them on point. Specificity about actions is really important. And again, when we talked earlier about having good collaborative teams, people do need to take responsibility and be dependable around actions. So the important points of taking action notes when you're in meetings it is really important that there are action notes. And it goes to that feeling as well of being valued, because I often think if I go to a few meetings and I've not got any actions, I think, what am I there for? Why am I in that meeting if there's never anything that anybody wants me to do? Because then I'm just there to talk. And so it's a good thing to kind of look at your action notes every now and then and think, is everybody picking up actions, or is there people that are just sitting there and not doing anything? And are we being clear about what is required of people? And that motivation of people, you know, making it fun, making it feel happy. I think you get more from people, don't you, who feel that they're enjoying things and that it is fun. Assuming the best of people is also a really helpful way to get better collaboration. I like to do that quite a lot around building expectations. So, you know, often you can say things, can't you, which makes it difficult for people to say anything different. So if you talking to a host business and you're talking about, you know, I can see you've got great values around diversity and inclusion, and so you're bound to be really supportive of this initiative. It's very hard for them to say, no, we haven't. So if you assume the best and you look for the best in people, in my experience, they mostly want to live up to it. They don't want to let you down. So that can be really helpful. And I know you do it with the interns. I see that all the time with interns, that you really assume the best of them, which is so important. And the idea of being inclusive, which is all about what Project Search is about.
So true. I think this is my part. I hope.
Yeah.
I can't count the slides, but so when we talk about collaboration, sometimes we misperceive or make the mistake that this example is collaboration, and what this really is cooperation. And there actually is a big difference between the two. We use the two simultaneously, but they're not actually the same. When we first started doing Project Search and we collaborated with all these agencies, a couple people had asked us to speak about collaboration. And so we did some research and found that, there's really different research theories behind the two. We've probably all cooperated on lots and lots of topics, maybe related to transition or education. A common one is transportation. At least in the US, we don't have good transportation, especially in more rural areas. And so we all get together and we talk about transportation, and we might even come up with a plan, and maybe we're going to invite the local transportation person to our meeting, or maybe we're going to look into some options, or whatever we decide to do as a group. But at the end of the day, we go back to our prospective organizations and we work the same way we typically always did. We just have a new project that revolves around transportation. But I still work for the same organization, and Carmel still works for her organization, and Diane still works for hers, and we have all our other stuff going on. And that's really what cooperation is, coming together around this common purpose, creating a plan or a goal and working towards it. But at the end of the day, we're still in our own separate organizations or groups or whatever. Whereas what Project Search is doing is most like what they call transformational collaboration, because we're really creating something brand new. So if you are the Anderson School District, let's say, and your agency, or whatever the organization is, whether it's vocational rehabilitation or DD or whatever it happens to be, and the business, the three of you are working together, or the four of you are working together to create this new thing, this Project Search entity. And the reason, when I created this slide, I really moved it like on the business. Like, I could have put it in the middle, but it's really on the business on purpose, because it resides at the host business. I mean, Cheryl just told us this great story that she's going to get this whole floor of a building, and it's at St. Francis. It's not like in the library or, at the council, or it's in the host business. So Project Search lives here, but you've got a teacher from education and maybe a para, and you've got a skills trainer and a job developer from here. And then somebody like Rhonda comes to your meeting from her agency. You've got your business liaisons over here. So you've got different people, but they're giving up staff and resources to create this Project Search program. And I think, when we think about education, you might have a special ed coordinator that you, Hannah, like you report to, whoever the special ed coordinator, ECE director is. But most days, I bet 99% of your time, you're going to be at the hospital. You're not going to be running back to the high school for supplies, or, to go to a pep rally or have a meeting about student council, because that's not your role anymore. Your whole role is this new entity. So anyway, collaboration is really different in Project Search than cooperation. And I think it's helpful to recognize that, and then make sure you talk about it, because sometimes people aren't really comfortable with that new thing. I mean, it sounds all new and shiny at the beginning, but then they're like, why didn't you come to my staff meeting? Well, because I needed to be at the hospital. Well, yeah, but I thought you were going to be there. Well, I needed to be at the hospital. Yeah, but I needed you here. So then there's all these misperceptions about, what did I really sign up for? Like, am I really supposed to be back at school or be here? So anyway, I don't mean to belabor the point, but it's important to have this picture in your mind of what is Project Search, because it also then goes along with roles and responsibilities. So, and oftentimes these misperceptions can lead to where your team is. So you may have seen this this diagram before. We did not make this up, but it talks about your team and how your team is functioning. And Carmel said the very first slide that Project Search is a team of teams. We're also very relational, which means we're always building relationships with people. But you're building relationships with different people at different times, so it might look different in one team than another. So at the beginning, I'm going to pick on Hannah for a minute. She's forming this new team. Most of her team is new, so they're forming, and for a while it's going to be great. They're going to get to know each other. It's going to be wonderful. They're going to have some fun. They're going to have maybe some Zoom meetings, maybe some in-person meetings. They're going to establish some ground rules, blah, blah, blah. And they're all excited about Project Search. And then maybe they have a roadblock. Maybe it's about number of students. Maybe it's about how much time Hannah can work in the summer. Maybe it's about, why did you take that intern? Like, I would have never taken that intern. He's not going to be successful. And then you're all mad at Hannah because she took him. Oh my gosh. And so somehow you're going to have some storming. Just realize that it's normal. It's not fun, but it's normal. And you're going to have to use your candor and your honesty and your transparency and have that conversation. And maybe use Carmel's trick of, so how are you feeling about this? Let them tell you, and then maybe go from there. And maybe they'll be honest and say, wow, taking that kid makes me nervous. I didn't mean to lash out at you, but I'm worried because whatever they're worried about. And then you can work through it. So hopefully you'll get to some norming part and your stomach won't be tight, and you'll be able to move forward, and then you'll be performing. And then you're like, whoa, all gears going, at the same time, and it's all good. And this slide has it adjourning. You're not really adjourning. You might be over for the year, like this group of cohort moved on, but you're not adjourning. You're just kind of taking that summer to regroup, maybe form some new internships, maybe do some training, maybe have a summer camp, maybe go to the Project Search conference, get some more information, and then you're going to start all over again. So just know that these stages are normal, and you can be a couple of these places at the same time. You might be performing really, really well and still be storming about something. So just kind of something to think about and picture in your head. Here's some really great collaboration tools. We are going to do a plus delta at the end because it's so easy. So easy, and it only takes like 3 minutes. It's my favorite collaboration tool ever. But these two are also really wonderful. And you have access to this PowerPoint. I would encourage you to look up affinity diagram and appreciative inquiry. And just really quick, affinity diagram. So I can't see everybody, but raise your hand if you like Post-it notes. All right. Rhonda loves Post-it notes. I love Post-it notes. Affinity diagram is all about the Post-it notes. So affinity diagram, I haven't figured out yet how to do it virtually, but if I'm ever allowed to travel again, we'll do it. And it's all about prioritizing skills or prioritizing goals and coming to consensus, which is hard, which means I have to let Rhonda have her say, and then maybe I get my say, but maybe in the end we pick Rhonda's goal because maybe Rhonda's goal made more sense. Maybe it affects more people. Maybe it's cheaper. Maybe it's easier. Maybe it gets better outcomes. But at the end, I might have to say, okay, Rhonda, I think this time you're the winner. So affinity diagram is great. Appreciative inquiry is all about appreciating how you reached a goal sometime. Whereas, sometimes it just seems impossible, like especially during COVID, it's like, really? You want me to get 100% employment? Are you out of your mind? There is just no way. And so then we say, okay, well, let's take a look back to when you did get 100% employment. Remember 2017 when you got great outcomes? What happened then? How did you get there? What resources did you use? What steps did you take? Who did all of this great work? It's kind of like if we did it once and it worked really well, let's reflect back on what worked and let's use all those resources and tools and move forward. It might not be just like it was in 2017 because that was pre-pandemic and we don't have the same people, but it's kind of like, let's use the best of what we had and make it better. It's a great tool. All right, we're going to talk about roles and responsibilities for a few minutes. I love this picture. This is a picture of a site in North Carolina, very, very western North Carolina, and they are an adult program. And they have had trials and tribulations, I will tell you. They have had 3 host businesses in about 7 years. They serve a very, very rural 3-county area. They have tried to include more indigenous Native Americans. And because of the mountains, and I know that sounds silly, like you really have to go around mountains to get to the host site. So they've had a lot of trials and tribulations, and they have just persevered. This young man right here was totally mute when he started, and Devon, the instructor, got him to talk. I don't mean like he's not going to be on TED Talks anytime soon, but he makes little sentences. It's pretty awesome. So I need some help here. What does the instructor do? I know we've got instructors on the line.
Develop the curriculum.
Okay. What else, Donna?
Participates in the employability meetings.
Yep. What else? Lynn, you look like you're going to do your microphone. No?
Facilitate communication between
Yes.
all the team members.
Yes. What else does the instructor do?
Collaborates with the job developer.
Uh-huh. Especially this time of year. All right. So this is what's on the roles and responsibilities. Let's see if any of those matches. Facilitates the annual calendar. Just make sure that all the things happen in the right month at the right time. Works with steering committee. Somebody said communicates with everyone. Develops internships with task lists. Delivers the project search curriculum. Someone just said that. Works with team members to match interns to internships. And then somebody just, I think it was Donna, just said implements the employment planning meetings. This one says works with team to reach the goal of competitive employment. Wow. It's kind of an all hands on deck. Assist the intern to be eligible for long-term employment support. So remember, that's your Rhonda. I mean, make sure that you've got your Rhonda Mumford person. I know it's not Rhonda for every site, but she's got a lot of the sites. So make sure that Rhonda is totally involved in your program. And if it's not Rhonda, it's Jenny. And if it's not Jenny, it's who? Rhonda you probably have that person. They're awesome in South Carolina. All right,
I'm the person for all sites in the upstate in South Carolina.
It is you for every site?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm struggling a little bit because it's just me left. So, because Jen and Laura are gone. So, yeah, I'm trying to get there. It's me over the state. And Diane
Oh
and I
my
were just
goodness,
talking about
girlfriend.
that. Yeah, it's me.
Wow. Okay. Well, feed her when she comes.
I just called her this morning just to check to make sure she was okay and like everything was good, but she's been phenomenal.
You are phenomenal. I don't know why I had it in my head that you only had a third of them. Okay. Love on Rhonda. So let's think about your skills trainer or your job coach. What do they do? Anybody? I don't know. Do we have any skills trainers on this today? Nope.
That would be me.
Okay. Tina, was that Tina?
Yes.
Hey, Tina. What do you see yourself doing?
I collaborate with departments to see what's a good fit as far as our interns.
Okay.
Come up with, I wouldn't say ideas, or watch what our interns know and try to come up with solutions to help them be more productive.
Okay.
Hi, I'm a skills trainer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How about developing task analysis?
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. What else? I think it's really important. The skills trainers are the face of Project Search. You guys are everywhere around that facility. You pop up everywhere. And so it's so important for you to be open to somebody saying, so Tina, why are you everywhere? Or what are you doing? What's your role? Do you work here? Where's your badge? And sometimes they don't often understand the role. Everybody knows what a teacher is, so that's kind of easy. But
Mhm.
you know, when they hear skills trainer or job coach, they might not understand your role. Sometimes they don't understand why you're helping the intern so much, and sometimes they're mad because you aren't helping the intern more. We used to have people call our office and say, you know that lady that's working with Annie? Yeah, she's a witch. We're like, what? She's mean to Annie. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. She's not so mean to Annie. She's wanting Annie to learn. So sometimes you have to really kind of advocate for yourself as much as you're advocating for the interns. Okay, so Tina and I think it was Donna that was talking about what they were doing as skills trainers. Here's again what our document says. And if you'll notice, a lot of these are the very same as the instructor because you're working together. However, if I had to split you down the middle, I always think about the instructor is more in charge of the curriculum, the IEP compliance, meeting goals, talking to families, kind of on that employability skills side of things, kind of the more touchy-feely side. Maybe I shouldn't say that. And then the skills trainer is teaching the skills. And they're more about the internships. Not that you both wouldn't do cross over the line, but if I had the divide, I don't know. Thoughts about that? Do you think am I correct in that assumption? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. Donna, does that make sense?
very much so.
Okay. Not that, if a family member called a skills trainer, I'm not saying don't talk to them. But if you do talk to them, you should then go back and talk to your instructor about, hey, Mrs. Johnson called me. We talked about Diane. I know I should have I wanted to include you, but she just called me. She was really upset. We had this conversation. Feel free to follow up. Here's what we talked about. So quick check-in with each other. You guys, my guess in terms of communication, the two people on the team that probably communicate the most are the skills trainer and the instructor. My guess is probably somewhere between 5 and 20 times a day. You're texting, you're talking, hey, let's meet at lunch. I need to talk to you about Carmel. She just, had a little meltdown. Or, hey, I need to talk to you about Diane. Her manager says this. We need to chat about it. So talk. They probably communicate a lot. Business liaison. So Cheryl, is that kind of you? Cheryl, are you considered the business liaison?
She had to leave. I saw it in the chat, but
okay.
she is the business liaison.
Okay. So does this ring true? Works with the steering committee. They help select the interns. They market Project Search, market, recruit departments, and really just help us be successful in matching that culture. I can remember, for those of you that might know Mitch Morgan at Fifth Third, he's kind of considered our national business liaison. We have a Project Search program at our downtown Fifth Third headquarters and in our operations center. And the two cultures are totally different. The operations center is very relaxed. Pre-COVID, people wore polos, khakis, first names. It's all good. You don't have to use titles. Downtown at the corporate office, men and women still wear suits and ties. It's very formal. Hello, Mr. Morgan, how are you today? It might be a little different now after COVID, but it's almost like it's two different organizations. So helping you navigate that culture and the vision and the values. And then hopefully they're helping us promote qualified interns. I would encourage you to do this kind of an exercise, kind of throw it out to the team. What do you think I do? Or what do you think I should be doing? And then Here's what Project Search says. How can we make those meet? Because perception of your role and what you do in your role are often two different things.
And I was a business liaison, Susie, and all of those things really resonated with me. That was exactly the sort of things that I was doing. Yeah, and also looking at, I can't see whether it says sometimes doing some of the work with other businesses as well is good as well, isn't it? So that as it says, they're working with like-minded businesses and introducing people to other businesses was part of it. So it resonates really well. It's a good description of what people do.
Yeah, good. And then, you've got your managers and your mentors. I'm just checking the time because we still want to do breakouts. And so you can look through this. I did mark on this one, when we think about managers and mentors, it's funny. Sometimes we put way too much on them and sometimes we don't let them do anything at all. And it's like, well, now wait a minute. They did volunteer to be a manager or a mentor. They typically volunteer because they want to do something. However, it's not their role. We're not just dumping that person off in their department and expecting them to do all the training. And then our Voc Rehab folks, same as, I know Rhonda isn't a Voc Rehab counselor, but she does some of these things in terms of eligibility and some career counseling. And I think what I see our Voc Rehab people and our DD people most of all is coordinating those supports and services so that our interns can reach their goals. And that's huge because we don't often have the resources that we might need, but they know where to find them. And they have links to other people, whether it's transportation or food for lunch or, I don't know, safety equipment, or maybe to pay for a certification. You just never know what they might be able to link you to.
Right.
Developer. So it might be a good thing to walk through these goals, or these roles with each of your partners. You could do that at a steering committee meeting, but it's always helpful because sometimes we have perceptions about people that we find out aren't really true. Or we have needs of people, and that kind of leads to that storming. If I have a need and I think Carmel should be taking care of it, and she has no idea that I thought that she was taking care of it, then that's a problem. So you'll see there's lots and lots of people on your team. You guys know this way better than I do, how many people are part of Project Search. And then, of course, the interns and the families. And this is a wonderful quote from Stephen Covey: "Be clear about roles and responsibilities because change happens at the speed of trust." This part is his quote. Change happens at the speed of trust. Great things can happen when you trust each other. Mm-hmm. So
it gives an example, Susie, of where trust isn't, and the expense, and it's the airports. Since 9/11, all of the trust has gone from an airport, and it gives an example of then how much cost, time, things have had to put in place, haven't they, because there is no trust anymore. And it's a really good example, isn't it, of how expensive it is if you don't trust each other.
Yeah. Yes.
And there might be good reason, but it's still expensive.
So you might want to take a picture of this, because we're going to put you in 3 breakout rooms for about 12 minutes or so, because we want to have time to come back and report out. So we're going to do 3 breakout rooms. If you're in room number 1, you're going to talk about the on-site team. Remember, the on-site team is the instructor, the skills trainer, and looping in that business liaison, because you're on site every day and you're kind of coordinating the day-to-day operations. If we were in a big fancy organization, you'd be like the director of operations. 2, the employment planning meeting team. So if you end up in Zoom room 2, you're going to talk about the employment planning meeting team. What are the roles? So you want to talk about what are the roles of that team? What are the responsibilities? when do they meet? How often do they meet? All of those W questions, right? Who's on it? Where should we meet? When should we meet? What should we talk about? How often? All those W and H questions. And then if you're in room number 3, you're going to talk about the steering committee. Again, who's on it? What do you do? How often do you meet? What do you talk about? What's your job even? What's your big goal of each of these meetings? So does that make sense? We're going to give you 10 minutes. We're going to come back. I might give you a little less just because it's already 2:07 and it's Friday and you don't want to go late. All right. So if you're all good, you know what you're doing. You took a picture.
Do we need the next slide, Susie, with the questions on for people?
Oh, that
one.
would be helpful.
Because I think the questions are the same, aren't they, for every group?
You might want to take a picture of this too. What's the purpose of the team? Who leads the meetings? Who's on the team? What do you do? How often do you meet? If you get into more things, that's great. All right, so let me create those rooms again. Oh, there they are. I'm trying to see where I am. Oh, I'm not. Okay. Hopefully are you getting a little thing to join? Yep. We still need people to join their rooms.
Susie, do you want me to join a room or stay in here with you?
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah.
Could you join 2? I'll join 1.
You're on mute, so you know we don't hear you.
I said my team's all back.
Oh.
So Dana, are you at Spartanburg?
Conway Medical.
Conway, okay.
Linda.
All right. And Carlene, you're at Prisma with Liz, and Lynn, you're at Colleton. Tina, where are you again? Tell me again.
Hartsville.
Where?
Hartsville, Carolina Pines.
Oh, with Donna.
With Donna, yeah.
Okay. I remember driving through Carolina Pines in the middle of the night one night trying to find the hotel. I felt like I was in the middle of a big pine forest and I was never going to get out of it.
Really?
I felt the same in the Poconos. When we went to the Poconos for the conference, we got completely lost and it was really dark and I just thought I'm never going to find this place.
No, it was in the middle of nowhere.
It was. It
I
was.
should know this, but Tina, where exactly is Hartsfield? I don't think Hartsfield, I don't think I've been there.
Where are you located? In Columbia?
I'm in the upstate, so.
You know
I'm
where
in
Florence
Greenville.
is?
I'm sorry, say what?
Florence, South Carolina?
Okay, I know where Florence is.
Okay, I'm about 30 minutes from Florence.
Okay.
You're close to Darlington, right? Isn't
Yeah.
Huntsville, Darlington?
I was gonna say, are you closer to the, I think about Columbia. So would I get to Hartsville before I got to Florence if I was leaving from Columbia?
Yes.
Or is it
Yeah.
fast?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
Wow, I'm glad you know what you're talking about there, because that completely lost me. You could probably fit England in one tiny bit of America, couldn't you? You could probably fit it in, well, several times in one state. Yeah.
Okay,
So shall
well,
we?
we're gonna go back to the PowerPoint, or we can just do it like this. So we can
Yeah,
see
let's
each
do it
other.
like this.
Who would like to report out about the on-site team?
They're such a shy group.
I
This is what
know.
I always found about working with people from the US. You're all so quiet and shy, and just like we are.
Anybody, or I'm gonna pick on somebody because Tina talked some. Sorry, my husband's drilling. Go, Tina.
Okay, we talked about the job of the skills trainer, instructor, business liaison, which is primarily the skills trainer and instructor. Is all over everywhere. We go into the different departments and see what our interns are doing, and we try to see how we can help them to be more productive. We also collaborate with department heads and business liaison to make our to see just where our interns are, what we can do to make them help them become successful.
In that group, they talk that the instructor and skills trainer talk every day. They always talk first thing in the morning, they said, and then kind of throughout the day as well. What about the second team, the employment planning meeting team?
Hey, well, that was us. We had some really good discussions about, so we talked about who was involved, and that's obviously the intern and all of the partners that are involved in their development and their parents, although Melinda was saying that because she's got some older adults in her group, that sometimes the parents are not as much of a feature, which was really interesting because we don't have that in the UK. So that was interesting. And we talked about how often, and we do twice per term. Now, I think we discover, Melinda, that you call it a semester, or have I got that wrong? So we do twice per term, and Melinda was saying they're working on doing that. Do you want us to fill in?
And we do, and a lot of the times we do ours after, we do it at the beginning of the year and then after each internship.
Yeah.
So at least 4 times a year. So it's really like one time a quarter. It sort of equals out to be.
Yeah. Okay. And then we talked about, we talked a little bit about parents and their involvement and how they might see things a bit differently. And then we talked about who leads the meetings and who that should be. And do you want to say a bit about that, Melinda? Or
I had just said that because I was sort of new in this, at this particular project search, I'm coming from another project search, is that at the time it was just me and the intern, so I sort of led it. And then towards the end is when ultimately I was still leading these employment meetings, but the students would have their own little presentations or their own little visual resumes that they would have. But I didn't equip them soon enough to sort of be able to take over on a meeting. And so that's sort of my goal this coming year.
yeah, and we talked about the power of that and how powerful it is for the parents in particular and the managers and mentors who've worked with them to see this young person who able to kind of talk about what they've learned and what they're doing and how really powerful it was. And in fact, Diane was talking about, we were talking about how great that is to see, and lots of people in tears when they see it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted, Susie.
You're mute.
Sorry, I keep muting it because my husband is using the chainsaw or something. I'm not sure what he's doing. A manly thing. But so what about group 3? You guys had the steering committee. Somebody was in group 3.
So we talked about our what we do, and we said that the people that are present at our steering committee, it would be like the business liaison, Voc rehab counselor, Voc rehab job developer, DDSN representative. Here in Hartsville, or I should say Darlington County, our special ed director attends, our special ed secondary coordinator attends, our autism coordinator attends. I guess the director of VR occasionally attended. Did I already say the business liaison? Okay. And then we discuss basically what has gone on, an overview for the month. We'll talk about like what went on in the employability meetings, when we discuss graduation or things that are working, things that aren't working, potential employment for some of the interns. Yeah. You're on mute again.
So some of the things, Donna's just kind of had that whole list at the end. And I think your steering committee is kind of like whatever your team needs. You could get down in the weeds with interns, but hopefully you're also talking about big picture things like recruitment, marketing, developing new internships, how to make employment connections throughout the area. And Carmel mentioned that earlier as one of her roles as a former business liaison. So it's almost like, the steering committee is steering the ship, and the other little teams are the worker bees. You're running around doing stuff, shifting the sails and cooking for the crew and mopping the deck, whatever needs to be done, right? And
I love the idea of you were talking before about asking people about their different roles and like checking in on people. How do you feel your role? I think another thing to check in with people is about how do they like the steering committee? Is it meeting their needs? Because sometimes I've found that some steering committee meetings can be like almost completely focused on the interns, and everybody's going through in detail every single intern and what they're doing and what's going on and then you'll maybe talk to the business liaison afterwards and they'll say, oh gosh, well, I haven't got time for, and then you think, oh wow, because then one of my teams, they've started, they send out some information before the meeting about the interns, and it's got like a summary of what's going on for each intern. And so then we don't need to spend loads of time in the meeting going over that. We can just pick out the ones where, as Donna mentioned, ones where you need something to happen. It's because it's really nice to hear about all of the interns, and it's wonderful to hear that, Susie's doing really well and she's had a great day and she's getting on well with all the managers. But usually people have got like a lot to do, and it feels like I could have read about that. So I love that idea of like sending out things before so people can read it, and then you can spend time in the meeting doing the things that you want to do. There's a really funny video and it's called Meetings, Bloody Meetings. Is that swear words to you? Anyway, Meetings, Bloody Meetings it's called. And this guy talks about how this starts with this meeting where they talk for about 25 minutes about car parking. And then there's like all these really important strategic things on their agenda that they never get to because they've taken 25 minutes talking about car parking. And that always reminds me of that. You can do that, can't you? You can spend a long time And then you think, oh my gosh, we're supposed to talk about recruitment and we've no time left.
And speaking of time, so I promised I would show you Plus Delta, and I'm going to share really quick and go back to the PowerPoint just because I want to show you, and I know we're at time, but I want to show you Plus Delta. So we talked about the 3 teams, and just know that your steering committee really should be about that self-review and strategic planning or continuous improvement planning forward. And remember that there's some really great documents in the portal that can help you with this, all the roles and responsibilities, the model fidelity, all of that. But I want to show you Plus Delta. And if you haven't done it before, it's a wonderful, quick improvement tool. So just in terms of this meeting, I would love to at least capture 2 things for each column. What went well during this training? Anybody?
I thought the breakout sessions went well.
Another one?
I thought the information was very helpful.
You can put things in the chat too. I just saw something there. What would you change if we had to do this again tomorrow, which we won't because it's Saturday, but if you had to sit through this again, what would you wish was different?
That there was a break. Not that it wasn't good, but that there was just because it's hard sometimes to go
Or
on this
maybe-
log.
Or maybe non-Fridays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or start it earlier.
That's really good feedback. Anything else? One of the things I love about Plus Delta is that none of those hurt my feelings. So I can fix all of those pretty easily. We could have built in a 5-minute break. We could have done Fridays. We had to finish this series early, and we picked Fridays but we could have started at noon. We could have started earlier, so that could have worked. What I love about the Delta column, it's typically things that you can fix easily. None of them usually cost money. Nobody usually puts things in the what would you change that cost a lot of money. So they're easy to change and they're easy to fix. And so if I'm smart, then I will take these and build these into our next one. I know one thing I would change is Carmel and I went through to decide who would do what, but we didn't build in enough time for conversation. So we should have been a little smarter about our planning or our execution. We had a good plan. We just maybe should have built in times.
I think times would have been good, yeah. To know by this time we should be here.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I want to thank everybody. I'd love to know, hopefully you got some big ideas. And that if you have to tell somebody tonight, your best friend, your spouse, your friend, your family member, if they say, what was that silly training you were on all afternoon about? And then you can say, well, it was about this. So I hope you have a big takeaway from today. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful Friday evening and weekend. And hopefully we'll see some of you at the conference.
Yeah.
Okay, you all too.
See you at the beach.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Carmel.
Thank you, Suze. Always good to see you.
You too. If we do this again, we really will have to think about times.
These
Yeah.
sessions have been very informational for me
Really?
as a new person. Oh man, I have gotten so many ideas from these meetings. So I appreciate
You just
you
made my
doing these.
day.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I appreciate everything that you've done. I'm nervous about going into everything, being new and all that, but I feel very supported. And I think that these meetings have just made me feel better. Like I was really nervous at first and I've gotten more comfortable. But I appreciate the support from everybody.
Hannah, you can always email me. My only ask is that you say, hi, I'm Hannah from Spartanburg.
You can always email me as well, Hannah, but just for fun. Just email me for fun.
The new
Susie, real
Sam
quick,
is what everyone is introducing me as at the hospital. So big shoes to fill, but I just appreciate the support from everybody.
Are you going to get to go to the conference?
I am. Yes, I'm registered.
Good.
Yep, I'm registered, and I think Hope and our business liaison and Caroline, our skills trainer, are also going to attend.
Okay, good. Good.
Fantastic.
I
Well, good
just-
luck.
Yeah, just finished putting the program together this week. And we have 67, I think, breakout sessions and 10 workshop sessions. Carmel's doing a session. It's going to be, there's lots of information. The only problem with the conference is that there's so much going on at the same time. It's hard to choose. But
well, I'm getting in the hospital. So school gets out on technically our last day is the 31st, and I'm going to start at the hospital on the 2nd. So I'm going into departments that they're going to let me work as much as I want to over the summer. So I'm going to get in there as soon as I can.
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
Good for you.
Fantastic.
I'm very excited.
Yeah. Wow.
right.
Well,
I'd
I hope
like
you
to
guys-
bottle your enthusiasm.
Well, I hope you guys have a good, I guess, until conference, summer, 6, 7
We're
weeks,
still
8 weeks.
full-time.
You guys are? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Well, I appreciate it, guys.
Carmel has like 2 countries that she's working with.
Oh my goodness.
Good to see you, Hannah. All the
Thank you.
best.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye.